What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Captain's Run, also known as the Resi Run. Another week down in the rugby league world, and the news, it just gets bigger, it gets better. Rugby league, it is the best game in the world. What a weekend of rugby league, upsets galore. If the season continues like this, we might have one of the most exciting seasons we've seen in a very long time. Favourites losing, Penrith going down, Broncos going down, you name it. The big dogs have been beaten over the weekend. Manly also going down. So what a weekend of rugby league. Welcome to all our listeners in Sydney, 1170, SENQ 693 in Brisbane, SEN 620 on the Gold Coast. You can listen live on the SEN app. You can download the SEN app at the App Store or Google Play Store. Listeners, belatedly, they can tune in on Apple and Spotify. Head over, subscribe. You can listen anytime, anywhere. On the show today, Francis Molo, finally released by the Dragons. Where will he end up this season? And also the circumstances of the release. It's very, very murky. Very interesting discussion. Brandon Smith linked to the Rabbitohs after comments from Wayne Bennett. Can the old Sydney rivals make a deal for the injured utility? A weekend of upsets. Roosters, Warriors, Raiders winning against the odds. Former Panther, Bronco and Dragon Luke Priddis joins the show. South Sydney Centre, Campbell Graham will not be on the show, as I just got in my ear, but I just want to say his name because he played really well on the weekend.
And replicating that 3 years later.
Oh, there we go. Luke Priddis, grand final hero. Is that music to your ears, mate?
Yeah, mate. Never get too tired of hearing that.
Mate, first of all, how you been, mate? How's life treating you?
Yeah, not too bad. I think still working as a financial planner, which is something that I've probably started 5 or 6 years pre my retirement. So that's going well. Still running the foundation out here, the Luke Priddis Foundation in Penrith. So helping those in the autistic community through that. And yeah, kids are getting older, and we all move on. I'm getting fatter.
Oh, mate, I'm feeling you, mate. I'm feeling you. How's it been like with the explosion of, I guess, Penrith Panthers winning 4 in a row? There's almost been like a cultural shift, especially out there. What's it been like seeing how much Penrith and the area has changed over the last 20 years or so?
Yeah, I mean, from the sporting side of things, I think there's always been, just champions out here, whether it's obviously canoeing or whatever Jess Fock does, if that's the right thing, canoeing, slalom, etc., cricket, obviously rugby league. So it's a great area for sports, and again, it's probably, as I said, the world's biggest junior for rugby league at least, and I think there's always been that potential, but obviously the Panthers have been able to get the right people in place to make the plans and put the processes in place to take advantage of that, and obviously the last 5 years has definitely seen that sort of come through, and I suppose there hasn't been a side in the NRL or probably pre-NRL, whatever you want to call it, apart from the St. George eras and that like in the modern day era, there hasn't been sort of a side like this side, and the fact that they've been sort of pulled apart slowly over the years, but they've still managed 4 in a row, which no one else has done, is a pretty magic feat, and probably one that we won't see for a few generations to come.
Could you ever, in your wildest dreams, when you won your premierships and did it in the Penrith jersey, could you ever, in your wildest dreams, imagine that you would have been part of like the foundations of the? Because I'm sure this current roster looks a lot back to your era and takes a lot out of it. Do you ever think in your wildest dreams that you would be somewhat a part of this rebirth of the Penrith side?
Oh, look, I don't think there's any players in our sort of era that can really take responsibility for that. I mean, I know there's a couple of the coaching staff up there now that was, I suppose, my era, but you can't take anything away from sort of Ivan and the players that are there now. Obviously, Royce has sort of been around, but probably not in that coaching role, but probably maybe as a bit of a mentor to some of the younger players coming up. But again, I think they do get players like Gowie and Big T coming back in every now and then, so they have sort of played a minor role, I'd say, but you can't take sort of any credit away from the current coaching staff and the playing group that they've sort of developed over the past probably 5 to 6 years. they've
Mate,
all come up through the junior system, played together, and obviously that's the strength of the junior systems, and hopefully, as I said, being picked apart. And you've got to put your hat on as a family man and say, yep, you do have to look after your family, but hopefully there's still enough talent to come through there that will keep the Panthers sort of in that top 4 or top 8 for many years to come.
And, mate, what do you reckon about the start of the season? Obviously, it was a little bit clunky in round one, at least the first 20 minutes, but then they ran away with it. It was still a bloody good performance by Penrith, especially when you consider how many players were away for rep for a lot of the preseason. Then they came out round 2 and there was the incredible win by the Roosters. Panthers didn't play their best. Now, granted, it's not even close to like panic or anything like that, but what do you reckon went wrong for the boys on the weekend?
Oh, look, I think Ivan hit it on the head that they'd lost the game before they turned up, and said, without knowing what their system, what their sort of routine was leading up to that week. But I know they did take sort of a bit of time off when they came back to Vegas, and I think that's just to let everyone get over the jet lag, etc. And as you said, they weren't sort of spot on over in Vegas, but I mean the Sharks had something to prove, so they really sort of put in a battle up to the boys, and I think they sort of overcame that, and that was a good start. And obviously last week, you'd like to think that the guys wouldn't play another game like that probably all season. I mean, if we sort of put it up to the standards that they've put forward the last 5 years, it was a pretty atrocious game in terms of execution, dropping the ball and simple things. And I suppose it all came down to that last sort of potential try in the corner. But no disrespect to Teo, but he'd been dropping the ball all day, so you sort of pretty much thought there was more chance that he dropped it than actually getting the ball down. So I think bit of a reality check, and I would like to think that the staff and the players there, that they'll take that on board, and maybe it's that little bit of a kick up the bum that they needed at the start of the season rather than sort of halfway through the season. So they'll learn, and expect them to come out with a good performance against the Storm this week. And again, Storm probably got the hands up coming off a bye and having no injuries, etc. But I dare say the Storm and the Panthers always have great battles no matter the outcome.
Mate, and call me crazy. I know it sounds a little bit dramatic, and time will tell. But I personally think, and I know he wouldn't have liked to have lost, but if there's one kind of scenario that you could use as motivation, because it'd be hard. It wouldn't be hard to motivate the boys, but sometimes I'm assuming Ivan Cleary is probably sitting there going, "Oh, I've used this way of motivation and that way of motivation." I kind of think Ivan would go, "Okay, yep, this happened. It's bad." But if he needs to have it in his back pocket later in the year when they might have won a few on the trot, he can always point back to that loss, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to be a pretty smart bloke to be able to get into Ivan's head and know what he's thinking. As I said, being on top for so long, you'd come up listening to, speaking to Peter Wallace the other day when we sort of went out to do a bit of radio and that. He comes up with different themes for the year, but it's more towards the end of the year, depending on where they're sort of sitting. So, but as I said, Ivan's one of you can put him up there as one of the top 3 coaches of all time now, I think, in terms of what he's done. So no doubt he'll have a sort of an outcome that he sort of, well, as you said, whether he keeps that in his back pocket or not. But again, it's not panic stations. You can put it down to the Las Vegas hangover. Let's just do that. But no, he wouldn't expect them to sort of come out this week and put in the same sort of performance. If that did occur, then there might be some sort of red flags starting to pop up that needs to be addressed. But again, these guys should be professional enough, and the talent that they've still got in that side, they're bringing through a lot of young blokes, but there's still enough senior blokes there who probably maybe were a bit down on their own performances last week that should be able to sort of pick up the wheelbarrow and drive it forward again to where the standards need to be.
And mate, you've played through some incredible players, but watching a guy like Cleary get around, where do you reckon his ceiling is?
Sorry, what was that? Where do you think? Sorry?
Where do you reckon his ceiling is? What do you reckon, if he fulfills his potential, where do you reckon he'll land by the end of his career?
Oh, look, I don't think he would put a ceiling on himself. I think he's shown that over the years. I mean, we still think that he's young, but he's sort of probably, late 20s now, so he's been around a while. But yeah, I suppose just the composure that he showed on the weekend to be thinking ahead, taking taking kicks for penalty goals instead of going for the tries, and that obviously shows a very smart footballer. And I think he's shown that over the years. And again, I think he will only be the ceiling will only be put on by what he's prepared to do. And he's still, by all reports, is still the last one that leaves training. Still working on his kicking, all those little aspects of his game. So I think when you talk to the champions of the game, and Alfie Langer was one example when I played with Brisbane. When I sort of asked him, mate, you've done everything in the game. What do you sort of learn? How do you keep learning? He said, well, if you turn up to training and you're not learning one thing at a training session, then that's probably the time that you need to look at yourself and look at retirement. He did happen to sort of retire or go over to England 6 months later. But, that was sort of one thing that stuck in my head, that if you can go to a training session as a professional player and you achieve one thing, then that's been a productive session. And the way that he's performed, he's leading the side. Obviously, Yo's there, a big part of that, but he's the general. But I don't see that he's going to put a ceiling on himself. It'll only be sort of what he wants to achieve, he will achieve.
And, mate, speaking of your career, been around success your whole career, obviously premierships of Broncos, Panthers as well, and you were a big part of the Dragons when you broke your leg in 2010. What do you reckon it was, your ability to, I guess, 3 different clubs going towards a premiership, like to be able to land that and be a part of that success? What do you reckon that kind of special part of your career was ability to kind of know, not necessarily know what roster to go to, but like you always ended up around success, and that's not an accident?
Oh, look, I don't really know, but from a personal point of view, I just had a competitive streak. I didn't feel turning up and just playing a game. I always wanted to win, and I was dirty. And that's probably why I didn't really associate with too many players outside my own team, because I suppose you see these days that players after the game win, lose or draw, they're happy, they have a chat, they're sort of laughing and giggling out there. Like, any loss to me really burnt me, and I was pretty annoyed and angry and frustrated if we did lose. So going up and sort of having a giggle with someone, it wasn't the first thing on my mind. So that's probably why. And again, always competitive at training, whether it was games and that. And I said I wasn't the most talented player by no means. I did struggle with my weight and that sort of stuff, so I had to do extras myself. And again, I suppose that's just the difference between doing that. And I remember some Christmas holidays, I was out there on the golf course back at Dubbo, where my nan and pop lived, running and doing a session on Christmas Day, so that I felt that I was obliged to be able to sort of have a big lunch and eat all the trifles and that on Christmas Day later on. So I suppose that's what I'd sort of put it down to. I don't think I'd like to think that I was sort of pretty professional, probably before my time, and I believe I gave everything to my teammates that I possibly could to be part of a team and not let them down. So again, I played with some great players, so part of my role was just to do what I was capable of doing, and the Lockyers, the Laurie Dailies, those sort of players that I all played with, they were I'd class 10 out of 10 players. I was probably a 7 out of 10, and if I could sort of hit 6 or 7 out of 10 every week, then I'm playing my role in that team to get us the outcome that we're trying to achieve.
Mate, and I've got to ask you before I let you go, and thank you so much for joining us, but where do you reckon the Penrith Panthers land? And also, actually, where do you reckon the Broncos as well? Penrith Panthers and Broncos, where do you reckon they land at the end of the year?
Yeah, look, I think that the Panthers can still sort of be in that top 4 and gunning. Again, we've sort of said over the last couple of years, they can't, but they keep doing. Look, Fisher Harris is certainly a big loss this year, and it's probably something that they're starting to feel, but I still believe that they can be in the top 4 and in with the chance. And the Broncos, look, they started great last week. Again, but they were up against the Raiders. And one thing I do know about Sticky, and he's one of the most competitive blokes I've ever played with or against as well. Now, he always has his teams right up there for the start of the season, whether that's to their detriment towards the end of the season when they fall away. But there's not too many years you look back and the Raiders aren't in sort of the top 8 after the first sort of 10 rounds. So you know Sticky's always got them. So whether that sort of was a bit of an ambush there for the Broncos, but Madge has got a bit of work to do with that Broncos side from where they're sort of the scars of the previous grand final and then last year, but they're certainly showing a lot of improvement. And I think coming up against the Cowboys this week, I'd like to think sort of they're back at home. They put in a good performance because the Cowboys have been pretty atrocious the first couple of weeks. And again, I think unfortunately Toddy, bloke I played with, good mate, if they don't sort of start to put some performances on the board, he might be sort of having to start looking over his shoulder for the coaching position. But no, I think the Broncos can definitely be a top eight side this year, and again, filling their potential. I mean, you look at some of those players, Corrigan, that forward pack, well, the fullback out the back, they've got talent all over the board. Madge's biggest concern is just getting them to focus on putting that in the right direction for a full 80 minutes, and there's no doubt that they can't be a top four side as well. So, and the Dragons, I still have a little piece of my heart down there as well, and they've started well. So Glenno's got them sort of going. He's recruited a couple of old school blokes that are probably turning around the professionalism and the character of that side. So there's no reason those three sides can't be in finals contention at the end.
Mate, thank you so much for joining us, bro. I really do appreciate it. Wow, the Cowboys, a lot going on at that club. Look, I'm going to sound harsh here, and please, I temper it. But, I guess the fact that you're making that key change so early would suggest, and I know, Clifford, they said they needed some game time before he came back into first grade. But I look at a guy like Duffy, he's so young, and I go, should have they potentially, just brought Clifford straight back in? Should have they, is there an older guy in their squad they could have put in there? I just don't know whether it's the best for a young player's development to go, okay, you've got the jersey 2 games in when their forwards getting absolutely dominated. That forward pack that's the problem in my opinion. Even guys like Cotter and Robson were having poor games, and they are the most consistent players in the NRL. Look, if he's doing it, I guess it all just depends from intention. If Peyton is looking at it like going, I'm actually doing this to protect Duffy. I actually think I don't want to put my next gun 7, that's going to be our 7 for the next 10 years, hopefully, back out there behind a team or a pack that is struggling, then I can understand Peyton's process. But if he's doing it from a perspective of, Duffy, you're not up to first grade yet, you've played really poorly, that's where I kind of go, well, is it really Duffy's fault that that's happened? Am I being too harsh there? Speak to me, Maestro.
You're not being too harsh. The one I'm interested in is what is going on in that pack at the moment. As much as we can talk about the halves, and the Cowboys need to be careful they don't become the Newcastle Knights of last year where they're just chopping and changing in there every week. But the Nanai thing is really interesting to me, because you said last week you thought him being dropped to Q Cup meant 3 or 4 weeks at a minimum.
Yeah,
and now he's been brought straight back in after one more loss where they probably, it's hard to go worse than they did against Manly in round 1, but they were a little bit better against the Sharks in round 2. I don't know. It doesn't get any easier this weekend, does it? And this is where the test is going to be. Can you guys stand up with all the questions around your coach, around your own form, around your halves, your teammates? Can they do it?
Yeah, I look at it and I'm with you, mate. For example, I don't think Nanai went back and absolutely killed it in Q Cup.
They lost the game.
And when you actually look at the side, it's got a bunch of first graders in it compared to a other side that doesn't. And I just think that, look, if it was injury force, let's say they've got no one to fill that edge back row role, and that's why he's brought back in, then maybe. But at the same time, what's more important? Sending that strong message that you were supposed to send last week, or bringing Nanai back in just so that you can get the win? I don't know. It just all looks a bit willy-nilly.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It didn't help that Kai O'Donnell came in and really didn't play very well.
Yeah, but that also, again, that begs the question. When you did drop Nanai and almost singled him out and was trying to send a message, did you pick the right guy?
Yeah.
Was it really him? Or then the reserve grader comes in, back from Super League, he doesn't play well as well. It's clearly the problem isn't just an individual player, in my opinion. It's either the playing roster is not responding to Peyton, or Peyton needs to change something to get the response out of them. Because no one's playing well on that side.
No.
Literally no one.
Well, they've gone from being one of the best defensive team in the comp 2 years ago to whatever is going on now. It's a big, big question. I think you're right. A lot of it is going to fall on the coach, and the pressure is going to continue until they can turn things around.
And now they've got a guy in Duffy who is a bloody good player.
Yep.
Who's played 2 first-grade games. Oh, well, he's played more, I think. But he's this year, 2 first-grade games. You've got
Dearden next to him.
Dearden next to him, who also played probably his worst game I've seen him play. And, mate, Dearden is unbelievable player. I couldn't rate him high. But if he's struggling, then I look at it and I go, you've picked Nanai, relatively young back row. I get it. He's experienced. He has played for Queensland. But he's relatively young. And then you've gone for Duffy, the other youngest player in the team. It just... I just don't know whether dropping people is the answer. I actually think maybe changing some methods could potentially be the answer from Payton. But I'm not in the inner sanctum. He would have so much more information than I do. I can only work with what I see, and I actually think that dropping people isn't the answer. Maybe changing some approaches could be the answer. But we shall see. We shall see. All righty, huge news. Huge news. The Daily Telegraph is reporting ARL Commission boss Peter V'landys has revealed the NRL is set to broker the richest TV rights deal in Rugby League's 117-year history as the code eyes a historic $3 billion broadcast bonanza. Data shows the NRL has superseded the AFL as a television product, attracting 153.7 million viewers last year compared to their rivals' 140.3 million. A 10% spike despite Rugby League having 3 fewer games. Across all competition, including State of Origin and Women's League, the NRL boasts 186.8 million viewers compared to AFL's 148.8. Aiding the NRL's TV right negotiation, the code will expand to 18 or 19 competition by 2028, giving V'landys and Abdo an extra match per round to sell to broadcasters. While current broadcast partners, Nine and Foxtel, will be in the mix, the NRL is expected to attract interest from Channel 7 and global involvement from streaming services, Netflix, Amazon, Disney Plus, and Paramount. The NRL has privately discussed a fragmentation strategy where Rugby League's products can be split and sold off to a coterie of interested parties. A fortnight ago, V'landys revealed State of Origin, the code's showpiece, which is currently exclusive to Nine, could be sold separately to maximise value. Look, huge news, and I guess it's a changing landscape of rugby league. I will say, I know the wider audiences sometimes don't really appreciate how much Fox and Nine put on for us, especially Fox, the first ever 24-hour rugby league channel. The content, put it this way, imagine Fox and KO just disappear tomorrow. Imagine how much that would impact the rugby league content that we all consume. And I don't think I know they're the big network and whatever, but they don't get enough credit for how much they actually do give to the game content-wise. And granted, I understand it's a business and they get something for it as well. But the game that we love, if that wasn't there now, it would change drastically. And so I think especially, KO and Fox, some of the content they produce and create are great. I know everything's not perfect and they'll look to improve each year, all that good stuff. But geez, they create some bloody good content.
Joel and Fletch, hello. Matty Johns, the stuff they're doing with Cooper at the moment. It's interesting, Kempy. So we're at the moment this split deal with Channel 9 having that slate of games that they get State of Origin exclusive, they get the Grand Finals exclusive. So we're sort of used to that setup already. Now I'm asking you and to the listeners, 0457 736 736, are you going to pay if those big clashes, those big fixtures, or even, say, a Thursday night game goes behind a paywall and is exclusive there? Because that's where Peter V'landys is going to find this extra money from this deal, is selling things separately. It's not just going to be Nine and Fox. I don't think involved in this deal, if they are going to reach that record level that they're already crowing about before negotiations have even begun properly.
Yeah, so listen, it's a balancing act between how much do we need that extra 100 million with alienating a part of our rugby league base. And what I mean by that is that I'm probably the wrong person to ask because I'm a die-hard rugby league fan.
You'll pay.
I'll pay whatever. I would literally, if I had to go and work an extra shift somewhere to make sure I could pay for it, I would do it. Whereas the single mother or the bloke that's, paying child support or just a family that's just, that extra $20 a week or whatever, that's a lot. That changes a lot. That's what we need to make sure we don't alienate. And so as a game, selfishly, you could be like, yeah, great, let's get that extra $100 million. But what's more important, keeping the core fan base that already is struggling as it is in this cost of living crisis we are currently in, keeping them on board until we get out of this cost of living crisis, or getting that extra $100 million. And I think, and look, Vlandis and Abdo, this is what they do. So they would have all that data there. That's my number one priority.
Yep.
Is making sure that we keep that audience engaged until, if it gets to the point where, okay, cost of living isn't as harsh, then maybe we look at, okay, adding a little bit here or there. But at the moment, right now, as I said, I got to say, I love all the content that's being created at the moment. Matty John show, all the stuff on KO, all the stuff on Fox. I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty happy with where footy is at right now. I know we need to grow and expand, but I really enjoy it, and I think that some of the stuff they do is outstanding. So what do you reckon, mate? What do you reckon they should do?
There's sports that have gone away from sort of putting everything out on free-to-air that have paid the price over the last couple of years. Rugby union's an obvious example. The A-League has disappeared.
I will say, little bit apples and oranges because they were already struggling as it is.
100%. Can I go to cricket then?
Yep.
Where one day internationals, T20s have been put behind the paywall, ratings falling there because it's not the premium content, it's not the test matches, it's not what everyone's tuning in for. So that's where you are doing the balancing act, because part of the reason the NRL has these record ratings is because it's so accessible. Because you're able to tune in on Thursday, Friday night, you know you're going to get a blockbuster game.
Yep.
If some of them start to go behind paywalls, and you look what's happening with the AFL, they've just gone into a new deal where they don't get they're in the situation for the first time where we are in rugby league, where Saturday is behind a paywall. You're not getting anything on 9. Super Saturday is a Fox KO product, and they do it very well, but you are paying quite a bit of money to access that content. If that becomes, hey, we're staying with Fox and KO for the Saturday, and then you're also paying for the Thursday night on, say, a Paramount or an Amazon or a Netflix, suddenly that becomes a little bit more. And if those streaming partners want that content, they are going to want premium games. They're going to want this Panthers Storm game that's happening tomorrow night. They're going to want the Broncos Cowboys game that's happening on Friday night. They're not looking for, they're not looking for Eels Tigers.
Yep. I think I'm with you. I'm totally with you. And it's more to my point of the grass sometimes isn't greener. And what I mean by that is that we've got KO and Fox and 9, and KO and Fox are essentially the same, that have the infrastructure, have built it out year on year on year on year. And if you all of a sudden go, okay, we're going to go to this new streaming service or whatever, they don't have the infrastructure. They don't know rugby league the way Fox does. And that was my point earlier in the piece is I know it's easy to hate the big corporation. Yep. I know that's the easy thing to be anti-establishment. I get all that. However, these Fox and 9 have been a part of rugby league for so long. There are so many intangible things that they have learnt and given and done in the game that it takes years to learn that skill set. It takes so long to build infrastructures up. It takes so long to for example, let's just assume it was Netflix. It was going to get whatever. They would have to hire a whole team of experts in the field that knew rugby league inside and out. Whereas you look at Fox, Fox have genuine people that grew up in rugby league, live and breathe it. Their kids play it. You know what I'm saying? All of these little intangible things that you just don't really account for. And so that's why sometimes the grass isn't greener. And I personally think, and I know it's not business savvy to think this, but I think the main focus of the game right now, and Vlandis and that have done an incredible job. Where the game is right now, I'd argue it's never been in a better place. But we need to make sure we keep our connection with every fan whilst there is a cost of living crisis right now. And so that's why I think if the next deal is in, 28 it would be from onwards.
Yeah, exactly.
We need to go, okay, will people be in a better position by then to be able to potentially afford more? If the answer is no, then let's try to maximize how much the deal is whilst also staying connected to most people who are struggling to get by. It's tough right now for a lot of people. I'm very fortunate to not have to deal with that stress right now, but we, as a game, sometimes, administrations that do earn a lot of money, that do, live in the city and all that kind of stuff, it's very easy to forget that connection to the people that might an extra $30 a month does take a lot of their budget out. And so I hope we keep that connection. I really do. So in my opinion, I think that should be the number one priority for this TV deal, and then potentially maybe the next TV deal when everyone, hopefully, we're in a better position. Hopefully, we've got some text here. They could literally just hire whoever from Fox or Nine have lost their jobs. It's not that simple, mate. To hire experience and people that have done it, if you would have to hire there's not that many people that can do the roles of key positions in. That's why they get paid so much. That's why they get paid a mozza, because they have a well of experience that is almost invaluable. Infrastructure, Fox and Nine use global third-party experts. Current experts are wrong all the time. Not hard to replace. Mate, I've just got to disagree. Mel
Meninga, Cooper Cronk, Cameron Smith, Billy Slater.
There's only so many former players that are good at speaking about rugby league as well. It's not an infinite pool, and it's not even just the personalities. It's actually the people you like. Benny, the producer.
Yep.
How many of them are there? And for people that are listening, the Morning Glory show on Friday, Benny the producer, a lot of Matty's stuff. Is obviously Matty does it, but Benny helps him with a lot of it and is the magic behind the scenes. There's not many of Benny rolling around, but you would need a Benny. Well, probably you'd need about 5 Bennies to go and and that's the kind of point I'm trying to make. So I've got some more texts here. How good cost of living crisis and the money hungry organisations are all about money. The family is struggling to have kids. Aspired. Now, look, to be fair, the NRL hasn't done anything yet, guys. Landis is simply just talking about options, mate. So, I understand what you're saying, though. You don't want that's the whole point. I hope the NRL remembers we are a blue-collar sport. We need to make sure that the game is available to most people at an affordable cost, especially right now. It's you could argue, cost of living for the lower class, has never been worse. And you could argue the gap between the lower class and the top class, there's almost no middle class anymore. And that's a concern. But listen, I'm no economist, bro, so don't send in texts about it. Listen, I'm not trying to get politically a baby. I'm just trying to talk about the cost of living and making sure the game is connected, because that's something that it is truly a core part of rugby league. It is the blue collar. We are from a different. That's always been the argument of why rugby union, in my opinion, has struggled a bit, because they've stayed too long in private schools, and they, in my opinion, lost connection to blue collar, whereas NRL didn't. They stay connected, and that has been the heartbeat of rugby league, and I think it should be a priority for the game moving forward, at the very least until the economy is in a better position, people have a little bit more disposable income, which hopefully is in the next 2 or 3 years. Guys, got some more text here. But why wouldn't all those current people just want to switch to wherever it goes? But that's the thing. It wouldn't just be a switch. It would be add-on. It would be basically because I don't think, look, Fox is going nowhere. In my opinion, they're the best in the business. They've got a 24-hour rugby league channel like that. To set that infrastructure up is impossible. They're great. So they're not going anywhere. But what would happen is they would go, we're going to take Origin to Amazon, or we're going to take Origin to Netflix, and you're going to actually, it's not going to be a part of your Netflix $20 a month or whatever it is. It's going to be, you're going to pay an extra $20 for sport on Netflix. And so that's where the frustration would lie for people that are like, mate, I'm already forking out, $30 a month, $35 a month for KO or 40. I'm already, I have to sit through a bunch of ads on free-to-air TV, and then on top of that, I've got to pay another $40. And then all of a sudden, it's almost like the NFL model that if you want to watch every NFL game, I think it's about $115 or something.
You can keep going.
Okay, well, there you go. There you go. Now, the text line is absolutely lit up. 0457 736 736 in regards to the value, the precedent that has been set by this deal with Dylan Brown. And I think there's a lot of people that have gone, okay, well, looking at how would you get a guy like Nathan Cleary out of a club? Now there's these 10-year deals on the table. It's been spoken about, would you have to throw 10 years at him to get him to the Dragons or to PNG or to whatever? Unfortunately, my friends, Nathan Cleary already has a 10-year contract. Matter of fact, he's got a 15-year contract. And you know what's got that for him? His talent. He doesn't even have to sign the dotted line. He could play poorly for the next 2 or 3 years, and there would still be a club that would offer him an 8 to 10 year contract. So the idea of offering him long-term contract, it's irrelevant to him because he has it already. Whereas, the Dylan Brown situation, there's not many clubs that would offer him 10 years, and his talent hasn't yet written that 10-year contract out. Whereas Cleary, his talent has. He basically, if he went on the market right now and said, all right, whoever gives me the longest contract, go, I reckon there'd be 16 other clubs that would say, honestly, the only other club that wouldn't would be Melbourne Storm, probably, that would go, yes, we will give you a 10-year deal. And so he's already sorted like that. Guys, I know there's been talk about PNG, all this kind of stuff. Nathan Cleary will never play for another club other than the Penrith Panthers. He will never play for another club other than the Penrith Panthers. He may, at the end of his career, potentially play for a Super League club just to explore the world, or maybe he goes and plays in rugby union over, like whatever. And it'll be more of a lifestyle thing. But I don't think he'll ever play for another NRL club, and I don't want him to. I don't want Nathan Cleary playing for any other club. Thoughts, Maestro?
I tend to agree. The only thing I'd put to you is if you are looking at a financial sense.
Yeah.
$2 million, say, are on the table. When the new salary cap runs around, the Panthers stick a $2 million offer for however many years. As you said, the length of the deal is irrelevant. PNG say 1.4, tax-free. If you do the maths, you are taking more home in your pocket.
Yes.
For the $1.4 million deal. Plus, Merryfella.
Oh, it's all
PNG
love.
heritage.
You can't put a figure on love, baby.
Exactly right.
You can't put a figure. Love's infinite, baby.
Move into the generational heartland.
Show me the love.
Yeah, exactly right. Is there any argument?
No, because Nathan Cleary, he's already rich. And what I mean by that is like, okay, so let's say even if he had earned $0 over the last 5 years, he's already rich. I'll tell you why, because he's already going to sign at least $1.2 million for the rest of his career. But also, Nathan Cleary knocks back media deals with partners. There are so many huge companies that will pay him huge money to do ad marketing campaigns with them, to be the face of this. I mean, he could make millions a year just going around doing speeches to businesses about excellence and greatness. And I know it sounds silly because he's 25, 26, so he's young. But that's what he has achieved. He is already rich. The check has already been banked with his talent. That's what I'm saying, Maestro. The talent has already banked the check. It just hasn't come into account yet.
Yeah.
So money is never going to be a problem for Nathan Cleary. You never get him out of the Penrith Panthers. And so that's why I think that he will be a Panther for life. And I don't want him to be. I want him to be synonymous with the Panthers like Joey is to the Newcastle Knights.
It's so rare in sport now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where you get a player who goes through their whole career being loyal to one. We've seen,
unless you want to come to the Broncos.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Just joking.
You'll take him. You'll take him.
No. Honestly, as I said, I want him to be a Penrith Panther, and let's see. Like, we're a part of greatness right now. We are in it right now, experiencing it. And I know, people aren't going to like it, but it's almost like you're watching Joey when he in the 97 grand final. Like, we watched that against the Broncos in that last 20 minutes. That was his 97 grand final down the short side. That was his moment. We get to witness that. We're in it right now. And we should enjoy it, baby. We should enjoy it. We've got plenty of texts here. The money makes, perfect example, Hatchie from the Heights. The money Nathan makes from footy is ashtray change. His investments, brewery, make more than football. He's 100% right. His investments and all his business, like, I remember, so at the Broncos, when you're young, especially back then, so the internet is not as, prevalent, all that stuff. And so I remember we used to have a group of men called the Thoroughbreds, and they were like worth quazillions. And so they were there just to like guide us and teach us things and basically just teach us about life. And if you ever needed to talk to them and ask about this or that, and even to this day, like I got mates, Scano, like I still speak to some, if I see them, shake hands, have a coffee, have a chat. That's how important they were to our development. It's just as people and just understanding. Anyway, so we get called into this meeting, and I don't know, I think maybe there was an issue with some of the younger boys, just ego-wise. Maybe we were partying or something like that. Anyway, the Thoroughbreds call us all in, and they basically said, you guys think you're the man. Like, you think you're killing it. You're sports stars. You're on a couple $100,000 a year. Guys, we could literally buy this club right now and sack every single one of you on it. You don't make anywhere near the money business makes. And that was like again, when you're young and, I'm very green. I don't know anything about business. All I know in all my life was sport. it was like a dash of cold water because it's true. And it's a great point in regards to Nathan Cleary. Like, if you think rugby league makes a lot of money, like, look at Politis, look at Boris. Like, that's like, and I'm not saying he's going to get to the billions. Maybe he will, I don't know. But business investments, that's where he's going to make an absolute squillion. So money's not a problem for Nathan Cleary, ever.
Look at some of the other you look at Magic Johnson, who is now one of the deciding factors in American sports teams now.
Yeah.
Like the LA Dodgers still has a big influence over the Lakers. That can be not just a financial thing, but your legacy.
Absolutely. Look at Michael Jordan earned way more from his business investments than he did. And that's NBA, where you're earning bloody $20, $30, $40 million a year. Anyway, got some more text here, guys. It's just basically along the same lines. If Dillbags is worth 1.3, what is Hughes worth? I guess a good question. What is Lachlan Galvin worth on the open market?
I'm going to say if Brown is worth 1.3, I think Galvin has to be commanding almost that much. Like, if not. What? You're talking about the potential. You're talking about longevity. You're going, that sort of money. I'm not saying the length of deal, perhaps, but I reckon there will be a club out there that is willing to offer him that much.
1.3.
I'd be very surprised if that's not the case.
If I was on a YouTube channel right now, I'd be like this.
What's your number? What's your number?
Mate, I reckon around 800's a good land.
800?
Yeah, 800, 900.
Are you backing yourself if you're him then? Sign for 2 years and then say, hey, I reckon I can get a big bump?
I reckon he'll definitely improve to a player that can be worth over $1 million. Yep. I just think right now, he's been so good, Lachie Galvin.
Yep.
And I think that, and also he's on massive unders right now, reportedly on like 250K a year. Massive unders, 300K. And so he's definitely worth more than that. But I just think that, it's only been 1 year, and there's a lot of parts of his game he needs to round out. And $1.3 million, that's a lot of cash.
We've still got the rest of the season, right?
Yeah, for sure.
To play out. And if the Tigers are pushing for the 8, I think suddenly there is that demand.
Okay,
halves are in such high demand, as we heard Peter Bard just talk about.
Yeah.
Right? You are paying anything you can to get one who you think can win you a premiership.
Okay, and so if you feel that if the Tigers can make the 8, and he's a big part of that, you feel that he'll be worth 1.3.
100%. If he's showing that
I'll go with you on that one.
If he's playing in the heartbeat, and I'm backing him to do it. I think
he's Tigers make the 8.
I think they're in the conversation.
Okay.
I think they're in the. I'll stop short of saying they will make the 8, but I think they'll be there or thereabouts.
Yeah. Look, if him and Luai, and also he has to be a big part of it. Like if he's quiet and they make the 8, I think that's a different story.
Yep.
But if he is really good and the Tigers make the 8, I'd go as high as maybe 1.1, 1.2. Do you think he could play 7?
That's another very good question. I haven't seen that evidence yet.
Okay.
But maybe
He's
we
so
do.
Young.
Maybe exactly right.
So young.
He could be anything.
Literally could be anything. The great Gurino, sir. Let us know on the 0457 736 736. Lachie Galvin is a really good, test case because everyone that watches rugby league knows he has a bunch of potential. He's been outstanding. And also, he's done it at such a club that's struggling. What would you say his market value is at? Is it where do you land with me around the 800K mark? Do you land with the Maestro 1.3? We've even got a text right now, 0457 736 736. Galvin, I think, is overrated for now. Too much hype. Like to see him produce first on the field if he's going to be worth $1 million plus. I don't know if he's overrated. If you actually look at his stats in a team that came last, they're unbelievable for a 5'8", for a team that came last. Welcome back to the Captain's Run. The big fella Fletcher's in here, and we're just going over one of his takes last week. And look, I tell you what, now that he's explained the take, it actually makes a lot of sense. I don't mind it. So the great Fletch, they'll be on after us, the run home. So make sure to stay tuned for that. We've got 1,000 texts here. Make sure to text in 0457 736. Hey, Kempy, just wanted to know, with the way Joe Gray has been playing, should the Bunnies look at putting Trelly Mitt in the centres and have a backline of fullback of Jai, wing Graham, centre Trell, centre Jack, and wing anyone who's not injured? Yeah, this is a really, look, Latrell Mitchell, at his best, put him at fullback. He is one of the best fullbacks in the competition. Literally, Latrell Mitchell at his best is as good as any other fullback in the competition, can be even the best fullback in the competition. But easing back in, I wouldn't mind a bit of a hybrid. And what I mean by that is this. So with Trell, I don't want him taking 1,000 hit-ups. He's a Ferrari. Keep him as a Ferrari. I want him doing the cutout passes, the try assists. You actually go and look at his stats. His game to try assist and line break assist ratio is unbelievable. It's better than any fullback in the game, I'm pretty sure. Or it's like as good as Scotty Drinkwater's, which is really high. So why don't they go, okay, let's get Jai Gray back there, younger legs to just get through all the tough stuff. And we know Trell can do that, but we don't want him to do that. We pay him too much to batter his body in doing all that. Get Jai Gray back there to do the kick returns. And then as soon as you get over halfway, Jai Gray goes back out to the wing. Jackie Whiten will go in the centres. Then Latrell Mitchell in good ball goes over the back. And that is where Latrell Mitchell is arguably, when it comes to ball playing, and as I said, line break assists and try assists, he is one of the best in the competition. And I go, is that a way you could ease him back into the game of have him at centre for defence, and then in good ball, boom, he gets out the back, Jai Gray goes to the wing. That's where I could see a hybrid of it. And it has nothing to do with thinking, oh, Latrell is not a good fullback, and everything to do with going, let's keep my Ferrari. It's almost you look at Tommy Turbo to a degree. Granted, I know they're in totally different situations, but let's keep my Ferrari in the best nick possible. I don't want it's for example, when you see sometimes these great front rowers or locks, and initially when they start their career, they're attacking weapons. But then what happens is the coach sees how good they're in defense, and he just makes them start doing 50 to 60 tackles a game. And you're like, I don't want my $1 million player doing that. Get the bloke on $400,000 a year. That's his talent. Like, his talent is to get through the tough stuff, and then get my $1 million player. And that's where I feel they found a really good balance with Payne Haas. For a period there, he was playing like 70 minutes, and you just go, mate, you build a club around him. And so with Latrell, I go, how do we keep our Ferrari? And it's actually a similar setup to what I would do at Manly. You put Tommy there, Lehigh at the back, but then in good ball, boom, Tommy goes back to fullback, Lehigh to centre or wing. What do you reckon, Maestro?
Oh, you're talking a lot of sense, Kempy. You're talking a lot of sense. Tommy particularly, just that body. You just want to see him out there. And as a Manly fan, it is excruciating watching him going what he is going through at the moment. And when you've got that talent around him now with Lehigh and what he could develop into, you've got Tolu Kola, who can play a similar role as well. Suddenly, you've got options there. And Siebes is a good thinker about the game.
Yeah,
I think it might be something they look to do going forward. I don't know if it'll happen at South, but hey, who knows? Wayne, the old...
Mate, he's done it before.
Maestro.
Carmichael Hunt was fullback heading into the finals, 2006. They moved Cade to the wing. Justin Hodges went back to fullback. Sean Berrigan went into 9, and they won a premiership doing that. So he will make those big calls, Wayne Bennett. In regards to Tommy Turbo, it's just... I've been saying it for years now, and it has nothing to do with wanting Tommy at fullback. I want Tommy at fullback. But how do we create an environment that increases the likelihood of keeping on the field? Well, I think one of the big things is, how do we make it so he runs less kilometres on the field? We put him at centre, because centres usually run for about 5 kilometres a game. Fullbacks, you're looking at about 8 kilometres a game. And granted, I'll be completely honest here, Manly Seagulls strength and conditioning and physios and doctors know way more about the human body than me. I'm just going off my experience of playing sports from 5 until I was like 28, 29 at a very high level. So, in my experience, the less Ks you run, the least likely you are to have soft tissue injuries. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it will stop him from having soft tissue injuries. However, I believe personally that it would increase the likelihood that he would be on the field more often. Thoughts?
You know the other thing it would do? It would lessen their reliance on him.
Yeah.
It gives you a number of options that you can go to, say the injury does come again. And it gives you an easy way to integrate him back into a side, or an easier way to integrate him back into a side when he's returning from injuries fairly consistently, as he has done over the last few years.
Yep, absolutely. Got some more text here. I know, I would say the most known Aussie sportsman at the moment is Volkanovski. UFC becoming the world's most watched sports. I don't know, the UFC is still quite a ways off being one of the world's most watched sports. Like, obviously, football. Football is the most watched sport. However, I would say Volkanovski, huge. But I think there's another text here. Australian sports star of stars, Greg Norman. He was the Michaels of Michaels. Fair shout, mate. Fair shout. Here's another text. Arvo Jensen. Mark from Crestmead. Taking the Duff man out is probably a good thing. Not like what the Broncos did with Dearden, young half, having to take all the responsibility for an underperforming pack. And that's a great point, mate, because it's what I spoke about earlier. It depends on the intention of Peyton. If Peyton is sitting there going, mate, the team is actually not prepared to have a rookie there, so I'm going to protect you from that. I don't want you being the main man in the headlines all the time. Then I actually agree with Toddy Payton. Protect the young fella and put the onus back on the forward pack and say, I'd even be saying to the forward pack, boys, you just cost our number 7 rookie his jersey because you're not giving him a platform. Is that what we want to be known for? I would challenge the forward pack like that. It just depends what the intention is.